You should see the places they play in the Soviet Union.
Oh, I'm planning on it.
You have to get past me first.
I'm planning on that too.
Did Netflix make the perfect movie by giving its subscribers The Queen's Gambit, or should they be calling defeat? Netflix subscribers have been raving about the streaming service's newest hit original that's putting a whole new face to the dark and twisted world of professional chess. And if you've already taken the 7-episode plunge, you've probably realized that you stumbled across one of the most well-crafted shows the platform has ever seen. But what about this chess series has the creators screaming checkmate and audience members crying tears of joy? Was the show's ending satisfying, or did Beth Harmon's powerful feminist edge distract you from the possible meaning behind the finale? In this video, we'll be walking you through everything you need to know and might have missed about the series, shedding some light on the show's finale, and looking at what exactly a potential Season 2 of The Queen's Gambit could look like. Just know that if you found yourself crying at the end of the very emotional finale, you're not alone. Just a fair warning before we really get into it, there will be spoilers for Season 1 of The Queen's Gambit in this video, so tread lightly.
It's your game.
Like many iconic series and movies, The Queen's Gambit is based on a novel written by Walter Tevis. And while the book and series are fictional, chess buffs will quickly realize that a lot of the figures and events that happen throughout the story are loosely based on the chess world of the 1950s and 60s. Despite it all, you don't need to know anything really about how the game works to enjoy the show's wild ride. In fact, the main actress, Anya Taylor-Joy, knew absolutely nothing when she was offered the part of Beth Harmon. All she knew was she had to bring her to life, and almost immediately knew it wasn't all about chess.
Now I'm like really messed up. It's like, no, this is a very serious disease and there's a reason for all of it.
So who exactly is Beth Harmon? And why is she so captivating? When you get to the end of the series, you realize that Beth is the perfect advocate for a strong, independent woman. She makes sure she's no one's pawn in both the political and religious world.
Fine. I'll give it all back.
I hope you know what you're doing, dear.
And the fluidity when it comes to her love life, especially the night she spends with supermodel Cleo, is groundbreaking considering the time period the series takes place in. She doesn't care. Period. She is her own person, albeit with some deep emotional issues. But from the beginning to the end, she refuses to submit to anyone. Netflix gave us an epic character that stood on her own without the overused storyline of depending on male companions, especially in the 1950s.
I will win them.
No, Harmon, you won't. You have to play Sizemore or Golden first. You can't beat either of them.
But let's take a closer look at her entire journey to her self-love. She's quiet, she's shy, and in the traditional sense, Beth starts out as a pretty bland 9-year-old orphan. But the more tragedy we learn about her life, the more we start to realize that she has all the qualities to make up a pretty epic tale of the hero's journey. We've all seen the same hero story play out in movies like The Hunger Games. Katniss leaves home to overcome her oppression and find who she is, and the same thing happens in films like Harry Potter and The Lord of the Rings. Beth has the baggage of her mother's death and her early addiction to substances. Her escape is her unique talent for chess. But what sets her apart from other hypothetical heroes is that her battles stick with her basically throughout the entire series despite her talent. Even when she's going on to become more of a professional chess player, she's haunted by her substance addiction. It literally follows her no matter the environment.
I felt like a fool.
I know that feeling. Helpless.
The tragedy doesn't stop. She then loses her adoptive mother to hepatitis. In fact, the only constant person, or country that seems to always be present, is Vasily Borgov, the Russian chess player we were introduced to from the very beginning.
And the whole time I'd look at his face, and there was no doubt.
And the finale is all about that. But before she can fully win against him, she has to return home. Things come full circle for Beth when she's faced with the orphanage her younger self suffered in. And when she finally decided to flush her tranquilizers down the toilet is when she's finally able to take charge of her own life. Her friends are brought back into her life, including Towns, someone she's always had a strong connection to, and she's finally able to travel to Russia to beat Borgov.
It's a big deal, beating the Soviets at their own game.
The series ends with Beth arguably being the most well-known chess player in the world. In the final shot, Beth leaves her car, headed for a flight back to America to join a group of old men playing chess in a park. On the surface, the finale isn't that emotional, but if you've spent the 7 episodes invested in Beth's journey like we were, crying at the end of the finale was probably cathartic.
Sagrayam.
Thinking about just what Beth went through, from being the 9-year-old orphan addicted to tranquilizers to the messy and tragic life she led in order to get to where she is at the end, well, to put it simply, it was a ride. A very steep, emotional roller coaster. And I think that maybe on some level, we can all relate to Beth's journey. Maybe not during her drastic life milestones, but in the way we still fight for our independence today. If you're still questioning why crying at the end of the finale just didn't make sense, Anya also couldn't help her tears from falling after filming Beth's final scene. But, like us, it was tears of joy. She told Refinery29, "Every time we finished that sequence, I would just burst into tears because I was so happy for her. She has found this sense of contentment, where she wasn't in pain or fighting something so intensely." But no matter how cathartic the ending was this the finale Beth wanted? Or was it the finale the world she lived in wanted? We're going to say a little bit of both.
Now, will you please promise to print that?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes, sure.
She met the high pressures and expectations that were put on her from the moment her talent was discovered. But at the same time, she overcame those expectations while taking back the control over her life that had been missing since the accident that killed her birth mom. There was also speculation that the final scene meant Beth was leaving her life in America behind and staying in the USSR, but Anya put that to rest by saying, nope. She called the scene of Beth playing chess with the old men her victory lap, a second in time to finally be normal. The Queen's Gambit has been a long time coming. Bringing this story to life wasn't a decision made on a whim. Co-creator Alan Scott admitted he's been trying to bring it to life since the 90s, and a movie was set to be made in 2008 with Heath Ledger making his directorial debut. But we all, unfortunately, know that Heath passed away from an accidental overdose before that could be made possible. But his influence on Alan Scott could be the reason why Beth's battle with addiction was brought to life so beautifully and accurately.
Wow.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
While Heath's original vision was never made, the series has been praised by both TV critics and chess critics since its release and has made it to the top trending spot on Netflix. We also can't forget that it earned a whopping 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, a platform that's usually brutally honest with their review. So the next logical step for such a successful show would be Season 2, right? Not exactly. There's been no news on continuing the series, and the show is considered a limited miniseries, but nothing is off the table yet. The show ended in a way that makes Season 2 both possible and not possible. So what do you think will happen? What we do know is that Netflix has a controversial past of canceling beloved shows like The OA and One Day at a Time before they can see another season. So will that come into play with The Queen's Gambit? We also have to ask the question of whether or not Season 2 can keep the spark of feminism and female independence we saw with Beth throughout the first 7 episodes. Beth's story was truly wrapped up perfectly, red bow and all, but we also know how complex her character can be. Will touching her character and her development take away from everything she went through in Season 1? We'll have to wait and see, but for right now, I think it's time for a rewatch. How about you? Will you be tuning in to a possible Season 2 of The Queen's Gambit? Do you think they'll be able to keep themes like feminism and fluidity that made the show so unique in the first place? Let's discuss in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like to keep up with all things The Things.